guys, James here, how you doing? So in this video I'm going to be responding to Sweet Soulful Sassy's video where she presented 5 of Thomas Aquinas' arguments for God from the 13th century, and in this video I'm going to be hopefully refuting all 5 of those arguments. Before I get started on that though, I'd just like to say that you should check out her channel. She's an absolutely lovely girl, and she's a moderate Christian, so obviously we're going to have massive disagreements about that. But she's been having quite a bit of trouble from some of the more extreme theists out there. Quite nasty messages from them, so you know, check her out. If you like her video, subscribe to her, show her some love, and mention that I sent you. So on then to the first argument, which is the argument from motion. Before I respond to each of these arguments, I'm going to flash up the entire text for a few seconds, so if you're not that familiar with them, pause the video when they flash up, because I'm only going to put them up for a couple of seconds. Okay, so first argument then, argument from motion, here we go. So the argument from motion. First premise, our senses prove that some things are in motion. Okay, yep, I accept that. Second premise, things move when potential motion becomes actual motion. Well, we talk about potential energy and kinetic energy today rather than motion. And any form of energy can be converted from one form to another. So, slight disagreement, but I understand his premise, and you know, for the most part, I accept that. Premise 3, only an actual motion can convert a potential motion into an actual motion. Well, a force change can put something into motion, not necessarily another motion. But for the most part, I agree. You know, basic cause and effect. Premise 4, nothing can at once be in both actuality and potentiality in the same respect. I.e., if both actual and potential, it is actual in one respect and potential in another. I'm going to use a visual aid to show why that's wrong. Okay, so I've got an object here, it's about 1 metre off the floor. At this point it's got no kinetic energy, but lots of potential energy. If I drop it, that potential energy is then being converted into kinetic energy, and at the point just before it hits the floor, it's at its minimum potential energy and maximum kinetic. At the top, no kinetic, maximum potential. However, if I drop it, by the time it's moved a few centimetres, it's lost some of its potential energy and gained some kinetic energy. But at this point, it's got both potential and kinetic, so he is wrong there. We now move on to his conclusions. Therefore, nothing can move itself. Next one, therefore, each thing in motion is moved by something else. There would be quantum physicists who will disagree with you there. When you get into chaos theory, and when you look at subatomic particles, they don't seem to necessarily behave in this way. You've got virtual particles and that kind of thing, which I'm hardly an expert on, but I'm sure some of the quantum physicists here will be able to give you a lot more detail about that. So then, conclusion 7. The sequence of motion cannot extend ad infinitum. This is where my first disagreement lies. You cannot simply assert that for a fact. Yes, we know that this universe had a beginning, but we don't know what caused that. You know, we can get into multiverse theory. You've got serial multiverse theory, where you've got Big Bang, Big Crunch, Big Bang, Big Crunch, and we can't say that that didn't extend back infinitely for a fact. So yeah, that's my first major disagreement, and that premise is simply unfounded. And his final conclusion, therefore it's necessary to arrive at a first mover put in motion by no other, and this everyone understands to be God. So again, we can't say that there was a very first cause for a fact, and even if it was, if you want to call that first cause God, then you can call absolutely anything God by that logic. We don't know what the first cause was, and we certainly can't draw any conclusions about that first cause's properties at the moment. There's no reason to assume that if there was a first cause that it has any form of intelligence. There's no reason to assume that that first cause has any level of emotion, and there's certainly no reason to assume that such a first cause was good or evil. It could simply be another natural phenomenon, some sort of force. We simply don't know. Calling it God, I think, is just unfounded and unnecessary. Argument 2 is the argument from efficient causes. So first premise, we perceive a series of efficient causes of things in the world. Premise 2, nothing exists prior to itself. We could get into the definition of exists. You've got chemical reactions, when you've got fusion, for example, as well. Hydrogen fuses in stars to become helium, but the matter which that helium came from still existed prior to it. We can't, if I've got a table, I can make a table. Yes, the table didn't exist before I made it, but all the matter which goes into making the table still existed prior. And all of that matter, and then we can't say where all of that matter and energy came from. We've never witnessed matter and energy creating itself. So we've got a slight problem with that. We haven't actually got any examples of anything coming into existence from nothing. Conclusion 1, therefore nothing is the effective cause of itself. We don't know where anything effectively came from, really. We don't know where the matter and energy which caused the Big Bang came from. Premise 4, if a previous efficient cause does not exist, neither does the thing that results. Fair enough. But again, we can't say there was ever a point when there were no efficient causes. 5. Therefore, if the first thing in a series does not exist, nothing in the series exists. Fair enough. But again, we don't know where the matter and energy came from, and we can pretty much account for all matter and energy up to the Big Bang. Number 6, the series of efficient causes cannot extend ad infinitum into the past, for then there would be no things existing now. We can't say that. Again, we simply can't say that for a fact. Therefore, it is necessary to admit the first efficient cause to which everyone gives the name God. Basically, my arguments to this are exactly the same as they are in the first argument. Both of these are variations on the cosmological argument of one thing causing another. We can't go back infinitely. This is simply flawed on two levels. That we can't say that things haven't had an infinite series of regress, and we can't assume that the thing which caused it in any shape or form deserves the name God. Okay, so the third argument I'm just going to read straight through and then critique it after I've finished. So we find in nature things that are possible to be and not to be, that come into being and go out of being, i.e. contingent beings. Assume that every being is a contingent being. For each contingent being there is a time it does not exist, therefore it's impossible for these always to exist. Therefore there could have been a time when no things existed, therefore at that time there would be nothing to bring the currently existing contingent beings into existence. Therefore nothing would be in existence now. We have reached an absurd result from assuming that every being is a contingent being. Therefore not every being is a contingent being. Therefore some things exist, some being exists of its own necessity and does not receive its existence from another being but rather causes them. This all men speak of as God. Okay, there's three problems I find with that argument. First of all, he's saying that there has to have been a single original being, when it could well be that polytheism is true. There could have been multiple beings existing of their own necessity or existing at the beginning of time. So yeah, that's the first flaw with that. The second flaw is that if an original being existed, there's no reason to assume that this being is still alive. It could have been a god which now no longer exists. And the third flaw is that this whole argument is basically the life cannot come from non-life argument, which I hear quite often. This is simply not necessarily true. We've got the theory of evolution and we've got the theory of abiogenesis. Amino acids, nucleotides and self-replicating molecules have been shown to spontaneously form under the right circumstances, and we've got a pretty good working theory to show how the original cells could have first formed. So yeah, this basically fails on three levels. Okay, so argument number 4, the argument from gradiation of being. And this is probably the worst argument out of all 5. I think it falls flat on its face in virtually every way possible. So let's start then. There's a gradation to be found in things. Some are better or worse than others. Well, some of those things you can actually quantify, like you can quantify light, you can quantify heat, you can quantify length, etc. But some of those things are subjective, such as goodness, for example. Would you consider someone to have done something wrong if they stole a loaf of bread to feed their family, or would you consider what they did to be a good thing? That's completely subjective. Number 2, predictions of degree require reference to the utmost case, e.g. a thing is said to be hotter according as it is more nearly resembles that which is hottest. Despite the terrible grammar there, they are wrong with the heat example. We reference something's heat to in reference to the coldest thing, absolute zero, for which there's no possible coldest point because cold is simply the absence of heat. Absolute zero, there's no heat whatsoever, and that's what we use as the baseline, not the hottest thing. We don't even know if there is a hottest possible temperature either, so they're wrong there. We don't know if there's a maximum of every single thing. Number 3, the maximum of any genus is the cause of all in that genus. Wrong again. Light started off simple and has become more complex. So there's no maximum. There. If you take humans for example, a student can exceed his teacher. His teacher didn't have a maximum of intelligence for which the student can't exceed. The student can certainly exceed his teacher. And basically this is we see the complete opposite to this statement in nature. things will grow, things will exceed their predecessors in virtually every way. So finally, premise 4, therefore there must also be something which is to all beings the cause of their being, goodness and every other perfection, and this we call God. Well, no, this simply fails. As I said before, goodness is subjective, and secondly, creatures evolve and become effectively more perfect. They don't become imperfect versions of their predecessors necessarily. So yeah, this just basically fails on absolutely every level. And going on that logic, does God then also have to be the most good thing, also the most evil thing in existence, also the most triangly thing and the most round thing in existence, both the longest thing and the shortest thing? This argument just basically fails on every single level. Finally, we get on to the argument from design. It's different to what most people think of when they hear the argument from design, but his argument is, we see that natural bodies work towards some goal and do not do so by chance. Most natural things lack knowledge, but as an arrow reaches its target because it's directed by an archer, what lacks intelligence achieves goal by being directed by something intelligent. Therefore, some intelligent being exists by whom all natural things are directed to their end, and this being we call God. Okay, so there's quite a few flaws of this. It's not a very good argument in my opinion. Firstly, natural bodies don't work towards some goal. They're directed by the laws of physics and chemistry. A water molecule will flow down a river and eventually reach the sea because it's having forces applied to it from other water molecules, and it will move down the river. It could also escape the river and end up on the bank somewhere. It could end up becoming water vapour. Any number of possible things could happen. It's not working towards a goal, it's just simply following the laws of physics. And most natural things lack knowledge. If you're talking about animals which don't have brains, then they're still reacting to the laws of chemistry and physics. They'll react to certain chemicals and that kind of thing. Another flaw is they say that natural things are directed by a being. Why could it not be multiple beings? Why does it even have to be a being? A water slide will direct someone down a set path because the person is going to follow the laws of physics down it. The water slide will direct the person, but that water slide doesn't have any intelligence. Also, my computer can perform very complex tasks. It doesn't have any intelligence of itself. Entering a command into the computer will cause the computer to just follow a sequence of instructions which work by the laws of physics as well. Yeah, that's basically it. If you want to call all the laws of physics God, fair enough, but by that logic you can just call absolutely anything God. When I talk about a God, I'm thinking about a being which has an intelligence and has a motive. There's no reason to assume that whatever causes the laws of chemistry and physics has either of those properties, and we simply do not know why the laws of physics work exactly the way they do. We can simply just work off the observations which we have. So that's it. Hopefully I've refuted all of those arguments quite effectively. Thanks for watching, guys. Comment, rate, subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Bye.